My people, history has just been made on the Nile. Ethiopia has completed the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, Africa's biggest hydroelectric project, a $5 billion megastructure that can power an entire nation. But here's the twist. The real story isn't about concrete, steel, or turbines. It's about how this dam was built. Not with World Bank loans, not with IMF bailout, not with Chinese billions, but by ordinary Ethiopians, farmers selling their cows, civil servants giving up a month's salary, even school children pulling their lunch money. Think about that for a second. In a world where Africa is told that it can't build without outside money, Ethiopia just delivered one of the largest dams on earth, funded by its own people. This is pride. This is sovereignty. But it's also a story of tension, yes, with Egypt, with Sudan, and with a question that still hangs over Africa. Can we truly build for ourselves without permission from the outside world? We're going to break it down, but first, welcome to all of our new subscribers and members. And if you haven't joined us yet, please subscribe and hit the notification bell for alerts. And if you enjoy this video, like, comment, and share it with your group chats. All right, now, let's get into it. So the idea of taming the Nile isn't new. Back in the 1950s, under Emperor Haile Selassie, Ethiopia dreamed of harnessing the Blue Nile to power its future. Studies were done, sites were identified, but for decades, war, coups, and poverty kept that dream on the shelf. Fast forward to 2011, Prime Minister Meles Zenawi stands before the nation and announces the launch of the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam. And his message was clear. This project will not just change Ethiopia, it'll change Africa. But there was a catch. Ethiopia was under sanctions. Foreign lenders like the World Bank and the IMF weren't lining up with cash. In fact, they warned Ethiopia against moving forward without their terms and conditions. So Meles made a bold statement at the laying of the first cornerstone in 2011. No matter how poor we are, in the Ethiopian traditions of resolve, the Ethiopian people will pay any sacrifice, he said. In that moment, the GERD stopped being just another energy project. It became a test of sovereignty, a fight to prove that Africa could build big on its own terms. And they won. The government has confirmed that GERD was built entirely with domestic financing by the government and the people without a single cent in foreign loans or external funding. So how do you build a $5 billion mega dam with no foreign loans, no IMF, and no World Bank? Well, my people, you turn to your people. After Zenawi's call, Ethiopia launched a nationwide campaign like no other. Civil servants gave up a month's salary. Farmers started selling their cows and goats. Well, not literally, but. Taxi drivers bought government bonds. Even school children pulled their lunch money to contribute. And listen, the diaspora answered too. Ethiopians abroad bought bonds and sent remittances, determined to prove that this project belonged to them. By 2025, more than 90% of the dam's cost had been covered domestically. Ordinary Ethiopians, rich, poor, rural, urban, carried a $5 billion project on their backs. It wasn't just fundraising. It was mobilization. A nation rising to say that we will not wait for permission. We will not beg for help. We will build it ourselves. That's why the GERD isn't just called a dam. In Ethiopia, they call it the People's Project. So this week, Ethiopia declared history. Fighter jets flew across the sky. Fireworks lit up the Blue Nile. And after more than a decade of sacrifice, sweat, and struggle, the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam was officially inaugurated. Now at full capacity, the GERD now generates 5,150 megawatts of electricity, enough to light up Ethiopia and sell power across East Africa too. For many Ethiopians, this was a moment of national pride, proof that the sacrifices of ordinary people, farmers, teachers, mothers, and children had not been in vain. But hey, not everyone was celebrating. Downstream, Egypt called the dam an existential threat. The Nile provides over 90% of Egypt's fresh water, and Cairo fears that in drought years, Ethiopia could hold back enough water to cripple its agriculture. Sudan, too, had warned about safety risks and called for a binding agreement on water flow. For more than a decade, Ethiopia, Egypt, and Sudan have been locked in tense negotiations. Cairo insists that the dam cannot operate without a binding legal treaty. Addis Ababa says it's a matter of sovereignty, that the GERD is an Ethiopian project funded by Ethiopian blood and treasure. So while the dam is a symbol of triumph at home, it remains a source of tension on the continent, one that could very well shape the geopolitics of the Nile Basin for generations to come. Inside Ethiopia, the GERD is already changing lives. Farmers who once worked by kerosene lamps now have electricity to power irrigation pumps and refrigerate their crops. Students can now study at night with steady light. Small businesses are opening in towns that were once dark after sunset. And at 5,150 megawatts, the dam isn't just big for Ethiopia. It's actually one of the top 20 hydroelectric plants in the world. Addis Ababa is planning to export power to neighbors like Kenya, Sudan, and South Sudan, turning electricity into a new source of revenue and influence. But here's the catch, my people. Only about half of Ethiopians have access to electricity today. The power exists, yes, but the transmission lines don't. Urban areas are well connected, but in rural Ethiopia, where most people live, villages remain in the dark. The GERD will only fulfill its promise if the government invests heavily in extending the grid. And then there's the regional diplomacy. The dam is built, sure. The turbines are spinning, but the political conflict with Egypt and Sudan hasn't gone away. Without a deal on water sharing, the GERD could very well spark new rounds of tension or even conflict if droughts hit. So yes, Ethiopia has proven that it can build big on its own terms, and that's powerful. But the true test is whether this people-powered dam can deliver light and prosperity without plunging the region into deeper darkness. So my people, where do we go from here? Well, first, it's important that we pause and celebrate this historic achievement by Ethiopia. Against all odds, they built Africa's largest dam. Not with the World Bank, not with the IMF, not with China, but with the hands, the pockets, and the sacrifices of their own people. That matters because it sets a blueprint for the rest of the continent. You don't need foreign loans and endless debt traps to build big. We can fund our own future. Second, we must acknowledge the tensions. Egypt and Sudan aren't going away. The GERD has shown us that Africa's development projects don't exist in a vacuum. They ripple across borders, yes. If Ethiopia and its neighbors don't find a cooperative framework, this could shift from being just a symbol of unity to a trigger for conflict. And third, we must learn the bigger lesson here. Africa cannot rise on charity. We can only rise on ownership, on the courage to fund our dreams, to mobilize our people, and to turn sacrifice into sovereignty. And Ethiopia has shown us what's possible. The question is, will the rest of Africa follow? So now I turn it over to you, my people. What do you think about Ethiopia's achievement? Do you believe it's time for Africa to finally say no to foreign loans and start building our future with our own hands? And what do you think about this rising tension with Egypt and Sudan? Drop your thoughts in the comments and let's talk about it. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more. That's it for today's show. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Sandra Babu-Boateng, and until next time, take care. Hey you! Thanks so much for watching this episode. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, don't forget to subscribe and join the family. Also, visit face2faceafrica.com for your daily news and updates on what's going on within the global Black community so you can stay informed.